morning, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Now, week to week on the show, we have with us some great musicians from all over the world, but this week we're changing it up a little bit to get a view on what things are like behind the scenes of your favorite shows. And today we have with us Heavy-d, who has done it all, from tour managing to sound engineer, production managing, all that. Welcome to the show, D.
Hey, glad to be here.
So, D, how long have you been in this business, and why do you love it so?
I've started at age 13 when I was helping out with my uncle's PA company, but actually doing it as a job and full-time about 15 years now. And as to the why and how, it's one of the best jobs in the world. You get to travel, you get paid to see people, you get paid to see your favorite bands. They become friends. It's the best job in the world.
And out of all the various things you do for bands on tour, I mean, from tour managing, sound production, all that, which is your favorite?
I still pretty much am in love with the sound engineering part. That's what I do most of the time anyway. But I am leaning these days more toward production, doing the tour management, but also festival production. And yeah, of course, everything that is involved with bringing a show or a tour on the road.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your tour managing days first. So what exactly is a tour manager's job, D?
Cool. You can ask that question to so many people, you'll get so many different answers. For some people, we're basically a dad. For some people, we're the person who tells you where to go whenever, and for other people, we're just the guy who helps you out. It's basically from start to finish. Whatever an artist doesn't want to do or can do himself is what a tour manager does.
What was the first band that you tour managed for?
It was, that's a while back. I gotta think about that one. I think the one that's from the periods where I actually have been doing this as a job, it was in combination with sound on Vomitory Tour.
Oh, cool.
I'm guessing that's not one of the first ones, but it's one of the ones that's most vivid in my memory.
No, what were some of your, roughest times tour managing? I mean, as far as, border crossings or dealing with venues or unruly musicians. We want to hear some dirt, D. You don't have to name names.
No, that's all right. I won't probably anyway. But yeah, from production point of view, it's border crossings definitely. We don't really have borders anymore in Europe with the Schengen zone inside basically the continent of Europe. But we do have crossings into UK, crossings into Eastern Europe that's now getting checked, and most definitely Switzerland, where at border crossings they go through everything because they're not part of an economical zone, they're not part of the EU zone, so everybody has to get ID checked. We got huge amounts of lists that we have to produce of what you bring of gear, it's all about money anyway. So they just want to see that you don't bring stuff inside that you are there to sell, except for merchandise, which you of course pay like a service fee and a tax fee, but it's just a hassle.
And I mean, have you ever had troubles dealing with venues or keeping unruly musicians out of jail or anything good shit like that?
Obviously, but the most of those stories can be told. But yeah, there's always something. I've done tours with nice and easy bands. I've done tours with unruly bands. But in the end, everybody knows they're there to do a job. And if they don't do a job or they don't take care of themselves to be able to do the job, they're not getting any money at the end of the run. A tour can be canceled. A person can be left behind at the border if he's not allowed into a country. So yeah, it's happened before that for some reason somebody forgot that he didn't have a valid passport to enter into Canada coming from the States, for instance, or losing a passport and then luckily finding it in time before the police get to, okay, you don't have a passport. you're coming with us. Like everybody loses something in a tour bus. Like it's all just crisscross to each other.
And have you ever had any trouble with like venues, or you know what I mean? Like sometimes some of these bands, they'll go to play with like all this Antifa shit and all that kind of crap. Have you ever had any incidents going to a venues where you weren't welcome at or anything like that?
Well, luckily I haven't really been dealing with the Antifa stuff or like any implication of which person doesn't like which band. I've done tours with Taka, with Shining, with Campfire. Some of these bands have at some point been told, okay, you're too right wing, blah blah blah. But I never really had that issues. The most problematic, if you can call it problematic, thing we had with venues at some point was in Italy, where we arrived a bit early and we called the promoters like, hey, we're early, can you let us in? Like we ran out of anything non-alcoholic on the bus. And it was a long drive from France. And he said, yeah, sure, my brother will come and then he'll open up the venue. 40 minutes later, nobody still, an hour and a half, nobody still. Everybody, during the scorching heat, it was an early summer tour. Everybody thirsty, no power to keep the bus on AC. So just started drinking whatever was available. By the time the promoter actually showed up with the venue to open the door, most of the bands and crew, and me included, were pretty soft. And then he was kind enough to open the doors and say, here's the bar, just take whatever. And sorry, but we don't have soda or water at the moment. So yeah, we had to keep drinking to keep hydrated, and it was a very, very interesting night. Let's say everybody was very, very happy.
We had no choice. We had to drink, D.
Yeah, sometimes that's not an actual excuse, but yeah, sometimes you just have to. You need to hydrate yourself.
Now, we all know with the times, things have gotten more dangerous as far as actual travel goes for two. What's it like now for a band to go through, like, airports and stuff like that? I mean, do you ever get delayed, ever have gear lost or any of that horrible stuff?
Well, gear loss and delays, that's always up to how busy an airport is and if they do something. Luckily, the last 3-4 years, I've been working mainly inside Europe. I haven't really done a lot of international touring the last few years. And I only have bands flying in once a month and a half, and then they'll leave, and then I'll take the next one. And we haven't really had much luggage lost or even stolen. If it was lost, we always came back on time. And we have had a few things stolen. For some reason, that's still possible in an airport, apparently. Like a band coming in from Nashville, for some reason, through Chicago, into Switzerland. And a keyboard and a guitar didn't make it out of Chicago. For some reason, it was scanned arriving in Chicago, and then it just disappeared. And it hasn't been found yet. This was like 2 years ago.
Wow. And I've seen like recently videos now of like buses traveling through certain areas. Actually, the one I saw, they were traveling through France, and people.
Plus one, green one.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well, this was a video from the Paris riots on last Sunday. It's a bit extreme, of course, because they won the finals of the World Cup, and apparently the French these days, whenever they celebrate something, it's all riots. Now, okay, we can't blame it on the French alone. There's stuff going on in Europe, but I don't really see much happening with tour buses, except for maybe negligence, that they don't close up the trailer too well, or a trailer gets stolen by some reason. But bands, I don't know. I guess there's still either they're not in those areas for those events or something, or it's mostly negligence. It's vans who are not blinded and not secured, who then get their windows closed, of course, wrapped in. I drive a van non-stop. My van at the moment is 27 months old. I've done 215,000 kilometers in that period. And luckily, it hasn't been broken into. But I've also made sure that it's very hard to do. So,
Well, that might be the trick there. You just have to be vigilant. Make sure everything's locked up all the time. Not like I'm just going to run in and run out. You just have to be. You can't trust anybody nowadays, unfortunately.
Exactly, and you don't really have to do much to make sure people can't see into your vehicle. Like even if you do a rental, do the effort to take your stuff in the hotel room, whatever. Even you're tired and you may be drunk, and it's a hassle to take everything into your hotel room. But if you have a rental van with clear windows, of course you're gonna get broken into, and you're gonna lose your shit.
This is true. And on the brighter side of things, what are some of your favorite moments on the road, D?
Favorite moments? Oh man, favorite moments for me is usually the end of a night where we had a good show, and then preferably lucky enough to have a few hours of daylight left, or just being in an awesome city and then not having to go at 6 a.m. again the day after, and actually being able to explore a city. Or meet with fans, with people. Like you go to so many places back again over the years that you develop friendships. So all these people come to see the band, of course. That's their priority, and then have some merchandise, and they want to have it signed, and they want to hang out with the band. But then in the end, I get to hang out with some of my friends that I develop as well. And that's for me, that's what touring is about. Having a great show, everybody happy, and then having some time to relax with friends and maybe even family. I had family come over that were in the country at that point. So it's always a nice surprise.
So have you ever had like a fanboy moment out on the road where you were playing somewhere where like your favorite band was playing that you never got a chance to meet and you were able to meet them or anything like that?
Of course. Well, if you don't have those moments anymore, you better quit the business. Like, then it becomes just a drag, and you're just doing it for the money, which I can promise you, it's not there, the money. Like, unless you're a Live Nation big shot, don't do this for the money. I've always had a list of 3 people I've desperately wanted to meet, and over the years that list grew. But my top 3 were always King Diamond, which I was lucky enough to meet through his road manager a couple of years ago in Hellfest. Actually got a nice meet and greet and a picture. Henry Rollins, all-time favorite of mine, big hero. Actually look up to the guy a lot. I've had him over the years during working at Wacken, where he does the spoken word stuff a few times. Don't think he's there this year, but he'll probably be back next year. And then I have a third person I still haven't met, which I'm not going to reveal to not jinx it. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to meet the Rolling Stones when I was 18. I've had stuff with Lemmy, Doro Pesh, with the bands I've been working with and the productions I've been lucky enough to work for now. I do get to meet a lot of nice people, and you don't even have to go look for them. Like, if you're nice enough, eventually you'll just run into them, and they'll always have a chat with you.
So what's your favorite place or country or whatever to work at?
At the moment, currently, I have to say Spain, because I just came back from basically 5 weeks of touring in Spain, and I'm still stuffed with the awesome meat and the incredible seafood. I've got a new addiction. It's called Tinto de Verano. I don't know if you know that. It's a red wine with 7-Up mix and some vermouth. But in general, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. In the summer, I'm mainly in Germany. I do Wacken, headbang out open air. I do Pakistan, Summer Breeze in the center of July and August. And the rest of the year, I'm basically crisscross all around Europe. And then next year, with the plans we have, we'll be all around the world. So to me, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's well planned out, as long as I'm going to have a good time, as long as at the end I realize it was a great run, it doesn't really matter to me.
So you also mentioned that you do some sound, or a lot of sound engineering. So tell us what that involves.
Well, I don't do anything in the studio or recording-wise. I'll do some recording, but like you won't find any production value of me on a CD or a DVD or a video or whatever. I mainly just do live sounds at festivals, at concerts, gigs. That's what I prefer to do. Like, and I don't really have the patience to sit in the studio and do tracks and tracks of recording or do cut and paste stuff in whatever program or even on analog. It's always been my main passion to do live sounds. I've had a hand in doing lights, didn't like it, gave that up quite early, and still don't really know how it works. Not even now, it's all computerized. But yeah, give me a stressful 4 days on a festival with maybe like 80 bands in 4 days, and I'll be loving it. I'll be in ecstasy.
So what? I cannot imagine. So, especially when you work for these festivals, right? And you have all these bands up there, and everybody requires. I mean, how do you even coordinate that kind of thing, D? With all the bands and the sound, and do certain bands have certain demands? And I mean, what is that like? Like a 40-hour day?
Yeah, probably. But that's what production teams are for. That's why there's all these teams. Mm-hmm. Like from the biggest to the smallest festival, like a festival like Wacken, there's a huge team working behind the scenes. Like, luckily, I don't have to do anything there. But for Partisan in August, yeah, there's a whole team working year round, doing pre-production, doing whatever needs to be done, double checking, triple checking. For Partisan, we have a Wacken coming with a huge setup. On stage with flames and so many fake caps, or I don't know even if they're connected or not, but it's a huge setup, and in theory we only have half an hour change over there, so that's a logistical nightmare, but it will work out. That's what the team's now working on. Luckily it's not my part because that's on the stage, but yeah, everything needs to be planned in advance.
And so by the time you get there and you get all your equipment set up, I mean, do you have to bring your own stuff, or to like these festivals and stuff like that, do they already have like a whole sound area for you?
Yeah, basically the only thing I bring is myself, my know-how, and my laptop. Like, of course I pack a bunch of cables, microphones, and other stuff as well, but I don't own a PA company, so I don't really rent out material. I rent out myself, transport, and then through partners I'll rent out material. But on the big festivals, they have their own setups. Everything's arranged. Of course, by the time I get there, I've been emailing with hundreds of people beforehand for months. Like, I've been getting my first technical writers for a festival like Partisan in January. When the lineup is complete, they start doing pre-production, and then I get the technical writers. I go through them. If there's anything that I need to handle, I'll take charge, or I'll contact the band, or I ask production team to take charge if I don't have the time.
So when you go to these festivals, do they already have like everything pre-programmed already in there for you, or is that something that you have to do once you get there?
No, pre-programmed is a big word. Like, of course, there's standard list of channel patchings and technical writers that we use. It's basically the same from the year before. If it's the same PA company, if it's the same production team. I don't think the lists at Wacken have changed too much. Like, we have over 80 channels on every desk on the stage where I work. It's basically, you can start from scratch, but you always start with a small template from the year before. If there was anything that didn't really work the year before, you improve on it. If it works, you just take the same from last year.
And now, we work, well, here on the show, we work with a lot of drummers who like trigger their sets. I mean, have you ever had an occasion where like a drummer's triggers break? And as an engineer, how do you deal with something like that? Or is that more on the drummer to like improvise at that point?
Well, luckily, we'll never just leave a trigger connected alone. We'll always have some microphones in backup. Me personally, I don't really like a trigger sound on live audio. I'll always mix it for the low end on the microphones and the high end on triggers. So whenever a trigger does break or it starts to break, or there's always, it's digital, so there might be a cable coming loose or whatever. If there's an issue, you always notice it, and then just to take that channel out, and then use the microphones and really fast tweak that a little bit so it sounds a little bit like a trigger. But if the setup is good, audience usually don't really notice it too much.
And now, have you worked with musicians that are constantly tweaking their sound? I mean, I've been to shows, and even during the show, the musicians are like pissed off, making hand signals to the sound guy. Do you ever have to deal with any of that shit? Or are you just so good that you...
No, but the thing is, it's not to how do you say it? The most I've encountered is maybe a guitar player who hasn't really set his tone at the start of the show and then tweaks that a little bit. But I don't think most even know what's going on in the front of house until they hear a recording. They may have a bad monitor mix, and that's usually the monitor guy on the side of the stage. Like, we see it a lot when there's very bad communication at the start or at the sound check, and the band says, "Oh, just give me whatever standard," and then suddenly they do have a specific preference, like, and then of course they start giving the monitor engineer shit about it. Like, hey, I didn't ask for this. Like, yeah, you didn't ask for anything. Like, that's how it's important to always make technical writers as a band to make sure whatever an engineer, whatever situation you arrive, they have a basic information set. But yeah, it's never perfect.
And is there anything that, like, no matter what job you're doing, whether it's sound engineer or front of house or production or tour managing, is there anything that the audience can do to make your job easier?
Yeah, just enjoy the show. Not really.
Stay away from your shit, maybe?
I don't really notice people talking to me or trying to talk to me while I'm doing the show. Like, I barely look at the stage. That's why I was a really bad light engineer. Like, I'm looking at my mix board. I'm looking at my laptop if I have an analyzer running on there or plugins. Like, and it's so loud. Like, they might be shouting next to you. Like, we need more of that vocal or whatever. Like, trust in the sound engineer, and at least make sure you don't talk to him in the first two songs. Like, in a very short changeover situation, the first song basically is sound check. So if an audience member is malcontent in the first song, just wait it out, and the second song will be a lot better.
So, how did you even get interested in this whole aspect of, sound engineering? I mean, where did that all come from for you?
Well, I like to think that my dad had a part in it, since he used to be a DJ, but by the time I realized what the world was, I think he was already quit. But my mother's brother, my uncle, they had a small PA company for DJ parties, and they were DJs themselves, and they did like high school parties and small events. And by the time I was 13, 14, they were getting bigger and bigger, and I don't know, I was looking for a holiday weekend job, and he allowed me to come over and wash the trucks and clean the cables and sort whatever plug, and then eventually it grew into making multi-cables and stuff like that. And at age 18, I basically quit school, asked him for a job, he gave me a contract. And I was doing stage hand, stage building, backstage setup, all that stuff. All the while I was not working, I was looking at what sound engineers were doing and just keeping my eyes open and learning whatever and trying sometimes if they allowed me. And I did quit the business for a while since money was really bad. And we did 8 years of IT in between, since I was booming and there was a lot of good money in there. And about 2018, so about 14 years ago, I moved to where I live now. 14 years ago, a local PA company here I got talking to the owner, and he said like, yeah, we need some guys to help out on monitors and stuff, and he gave me a chance, and I would basically ran monitors and set up and everything for him for a couple of years, and then his main front of house guy quit, and I took over, and basically have been doing it ever since. First, still while working and doing it as an extreme hobby, taking 6 months of holiday from job to go on tour and stuff. But yeah, at some point I got a lucky break with a tour and met the guys from Pestilence. They needed a sound engineer, and I did their show in I think it was Antwerp Metal Fest or something. And they liked the show. They kept using me, and I basically grew my network bigger and bigger. But at the same time, I got involved with Wacken, through the Wacken Metal Battle Band, and asked for a job in their local crew and got it. And so at that point, I had 2 major network boosts. I said, fuck it, I'll just keep doing this full-time non-stop, and switched over completely, and I've been doing it ever since.
So now Wacken is something that you do every year now?
Yeah, I've only skipped one. My first one was 2005, and I've only skipped one since then. I think this is going to be my 12th Wacken in 13 years, yeah.
Wow. So what do you have going on now for this year after your little rest you got going on now?
Yeah, I've got a couple of more days of rest. I'll be doing stage management and drum backline for the Headbangers Open Air Festival first, with bands like Anvil, Loudness, TKO, Girls' School is coming, Tankard. And that's a small festival. It's actually on a farm about 50 kilometers away from Wacken. Has been growing steadily. It's basically a start for the people who really still like music, and then go to this festival and then go directly to Wacken after that. Same for me. So like, Saturday is the last show. Sunday I drive to Wacken, that 50 kilometers, and Monday we start setting up over there. Then I got that whole week of Wacken, and after Wacken 2-3 days off, and then I'll do Partisan, which is, I don't know if you know Partisan. It's a nice festival. It's a little bit more of the extreme music. It's about 15,000 people, and it's on a really nice small airport. But there are some really good bands there. I think, like I mentioned earlier, Watain is playing there, Venom, Emperor, a bunch of big ones, Brujeria, Gruesome, one of your favorites. I really thought, actually, Gus is playing at Wacken as well on my stage as well. I got him 2 times.
So you're keeping yourself pretty busy then this year.
Oh, that's not even half of it. The last night at Partisan, I drive straight to Belgium because Gruesome is playing at the Alcatraz Metal Fest in Kortrijk, and I'll probably go mix them there. Then I've got 2 days to prep 2 of the vans that go on the road for 2 tours from the 15th. But I'm myself going on the road on the 14th with a rental with a band from Iceland to Summer Breeze, Motocultor, and Metal Magdalene here in Belgium. And then I got 2 weeks off.
So the band from Iceland, are you being their tour manager for that tour, or is that what's going on?
Well, they basically got just asked for a couple of festivals, and they don't have any tour management or anything over here. So I said, okay, I'll do transport and sound, and obviously since I'm doing the driving for them, I'll do the tour management as well. So I've been looking at possibilities of where to sleep as cheap as possible for the festivals that don't give a hotel or whatever, or buyout. They'll probably end up staying in my house a few times. So it's pretty centered around those festivals. So yeah, they're good friends. They won the Wacken Metal Battle a few years ago. They deserve a good support here in Europe.
So Dee, when you do, like you had mentioned, you were working the backline for the drums. So what's that consist of? I mean, how many bands are at that festival there in Germany?
The Headbangers Open Air, I think we do about 8 or 9 per day. The stage team is myself and two other people. Basically, all three of us. It's a small festival, so everybody's basically doing everything. And there's not like one person in charge who just stands on the sideline and say, you do that, you do this. So I've taken it up myself a little bit to do the planning, and since I know the most about drums, I'll be setting up the drums with the bands and making sure they have every parts they need or do drum changes. My colleague will make sure all the amps will be connected and that they have enough power leads and all that stuff. And then the third one, he'll be checking with them the monitor settings and start a line check, because we're basically limited to a time schedule. Especially the Germans, they hate going in overtime. Oh, well, yeah, I'm not really want to say the German efficiency, but it's still there, but on a good level. That's why I really like working in Germany. Like, it's okay, it's a lot of rules, it's a lot of regulations, but everybody's safe. Everybody knows what they have to do, and everybody does what they need to do. So, and we don't run in overtime.
So for with that backline too, how many drum sets? I mean, do you actually have to set up? I mean, are there a couple of them that are, more than one band play on? I mean, how does that go? I know a lot of times bands will play on whatever set they have there, maybe bring a snare and some cymbals or something, but I mean, how does that usually go?
Well, the small festival, like the first one, Headbangers Open Air, it's just one stage, so there's not really a possibility to have multiple stuff anyway, or it's just going to be in the way. So normally we'll have there 2 complete drum kits, but there's only one being used on stage, of course, and we'll have some riders to move around. Like a festival like Wacken, the tent stage where I work, the Headbangers Ballroom, there's actually 2 stages inside the tent who are next to each other like a main stage, connected through a big passageway, and we'll have up to 6 or 7 complete kits there, because this one band is endorsed by Pearl, this other band is endorsed by Tama, and they have to have that stuff. Most bands will bring a snare, because every drummer prefers his own snare, in my point of view at least, and cymbals. If they don't fly in, if they're driving bands, if they're on tour here. And then many of them actually use their own kits that they bring on the tour.
Okay, what happens if there's a backline set and the drummer's a lefty? Do you have to make any improvisions, or the drummer's just got to do it himself?
No, we just have to deal with it. It's the same amount of changeover. We just have to switch it over. Like if it's in the case of the one stage setup, in the bigger stages, it doesn't matter, because there's a time in between the 2 bands playing anyway. While one band is playing, the other one is setting up. Mm-hmm. So you have the time there. On the one stage, I'll tell the guys, okay, I know you're a lefty. You're playing after a righty and you're playing before a righty. We'll just have to switch it over, and as fast as you can. If you go in overtime of the setting up, well, you have to cancel one song off your set list.
So what's the next thing you have now? Did you say the Headbangers? What's the next thing you have coming up?
Headbangers Open Air.
And when is that?
That's the 26th to the 28th of July.
Okay, so D, also I wanted to mention that next year is the big vomitory little reunion they're doing for a year. So tell us now how you're involved in all of this.
I've got involved with Vomitory in the last few years of the band, when they were still playing non-stop, actually, as their sound engineer. And basically fix it all as well. I've fixed cymbals with Tobias, I've done some repairs on amps, but mostly I've been doing the sound. And last year we did that surprise show at Summer Breeze as a tribute to one of the original Summer Breeze programmers. And it was just amazing. Like, after all those years, they were still, well-oiled machine. It was great. And then when I don't know the full story of how the reunion for next year was going to be. Someone must have asked, or some hundreds of people must have asked to do a reunion. And since it's the 30-year celebration next year, they said, okay, in 2019, let's do 1 year reunion shows. And they asked me if I can make myself available for all or at least most of the shows, and which I will do my best to be in the front of house booth for them.
And so what's the schedule like for that? Do you know?
I've just pulled it up. There's a lot of it that's still not confirmed, but Partisan was one of the first to confirm absolutely. I see there's a show in January for the Mess-Up Winter Festival. Let's see, Inferno actually has confirmed it as well. It's already on a flyer. Netherlands Death Fest put out a poster today with them on the poster as well. Maryland Death Fest will be probably the only show in the US as well.
Are you coming to that one? Are you going to be working at that show in the US?
Do my best to be there. I haven't been back to Maryland Death Fest in 3 years, I think. I've been there over with Bethlehem and then the other project of Vomitory, Cut Up, and I've done Got Macabre. And I actually worked with Ryan and Evan 1 or 2 years as well, that we just made a deal. I paid my own flights, they gave me housing, and I was filling in on sound wherever was necessary. But yeah, like Obscene Extreme, Kaltenbach Open Air, and yeah, there's a lot more that's in the works worldwide, Asia, Canada, maybe even a European tour. We'll see some Russia stuff. I can't really disclose most of it because it's not confirmed. I'm not involved in the booking anyway.
Right. So that'll be fun for you. And you know, we had Tobias on the show. I don't know, as soon as it was released, actually, as soon as it was released, I'm like, you got to come on and tell us all about it. Yeah. And he was mentioning about it. And by that time, Maryland Death Fest wasn't a confirmed fest yet, so all he could say is that it's not just a European tour. But since between that interview and this one, it has been confirmed now, and I know at least here in the U.S. everybody's super excited because, you know, when I was talking to him, he's like, this will probably be the last time you'll be able to see Vomitory, but it's like he said that before.
Even the last time on U.S. soil in this period, yeah.
So that'll be fun for you. You know, I know you're a huge Vomitory fan. Like you said, you've got the world's largest Vomitory tattoo on you.
Yeah. Well, apparently it was an A4 paper and just fit on my arm.
So have fun with that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I hope to see you there.
Oh, we'll see. That's like a world away from now.
Yeah, it's like 24th or 25th May or something next year, so
yes,
we still have time.
All right, so there you guys have it, a little behind-the-scenes look at what goes on out there with our guest, Heavy-d. And D, thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us a little bit about what you do and giving the fans a little more perspective on that side of the business. And if anybody sees D out there, make sure to go say hello, buy him a drink. And D, thank you so much for coming on the show. And man, best of luck to you in all your travels out there, and stay safe.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. See you next time.
All right.